Hello, all of you wonderful people out there in podcast land. Welcome to another episode of Black and White Reviews. My name is Will.
My name is Lee.
And I have some questions.
I bet you do have a lot of questions.
My name is Chuck.
This week we are going to be discussing the season 4 premiere of Stranger Things titled The Hellfire Club.
Titled Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, just title the entire season.
Just
Nightmare
title
on
the
Elm
entire
Street.
season Nightmare on Elm Street.
Don't get hung up on that. Just expect this to just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna change here.
Yeah. It's so... We'll get into it more later.
It's almost on the nose.
Yeah.
Just yeah. And the scenes we see in this, you're like, oh,
It's as on the nose as Terminator was last.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is heavily inspired by
Heavily inspired. There's even something that happens in this episode that's not inspired by Nightmare on Elm Street, but inspired by something else that was inspired by Nightmare on Elm Street that doesn't happen until decades later, which blows my mind that it actually made it into the show. I'm like, why that? But whatever. We can get into that. We can get into that later. So, Chuck, your thoughts, always, because you're the virgin here when it comes to Stranger Things. So go ahead and spill your guts. What are you thinking? How you feeling about the premiere?
I thoroughly enjoy it. I really, really like it. I like that it took a turn to it definitely took a turn to a darker feel than the original than the first
it's
three seasons.
basically straight up horror in this one.
I wouldn't say straight up horror, but it definitely has a darker feel to it. The biggest complaint that I had with a certain character in season 3 should have been done in this episode, and it would have been perfect. What they did with 11 in the first 2 or 3 episodes in season 3, they have full availability to do it here. And they should have waited. And I think that was my biggest thing with this is, I mean, right now we're in the whole was it Spider-Man 2 where he loses his powers?
Yes.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2 thing where he has to go and learn how to be him again.
Yeah.
This would have been the perfect time to have what she experienced in season 3 experience here, because she has nothing else but that to fall back onto.
True.
Yeah, but now she's just depressed about it. So I don't think she's gonna be going around trying on dresses and stuff.
Yeah, but she could.
Right, but
I think that's the point.
But she could, I suppose. But the problem is you don't have Max being her girly girlfriend. Max is kind of an island unto herself in this season.
She has Will
so far.
She has Will, and she's nowhere near Max. They're not even together.
She has Will, and they're gonna let's go shopping.
What I'm saying is, they could have, it would have been
Oh, man.
written differently, obviously, and she would have a friend that she is befriending in her new location.
Yeah.
That she could do this with. But what they did to her in the beginning of season 3, they could have done to her in the beginning here, because now she's not the 11 that we know.
True.
And it would have fit so much better. The growth in Will, it just,
You mean physically?
it just,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about it, because there's
Nope.
really just not much to say about the growth.
Not really.
In Will.
Not really.
I will say this before we get into spoiler territory. The fact that they end the season with him wanting to play D&D and his friends not wanting to play D&D, and this reverse happens in this season, just it confuses me. Where they're all about it now and he wants nothing to do with it.
Well, he's not there with them. They're in Hawkins and Will.
I guess
they're all out
I get
in
that.
California.
And Mike's world is not consumed by 11.
Right. Right.
There is
So
You would usually, though, like when you move and you like something, you find people that like the things that you like, and then you
True.
become friends with them.
True.
yeah, but I think Will was focused on just kind of protecting 11. Would be my guess.
Maybe.
He's just there to kind of keep an eye on her because she's now finally in the public. as opposed to like, well,
Yeah, she's in the public with nothing, whereas before in Hawkins she was in the public with everything.
yeah.
She was more in public in Hawkins with her powers than she is now without them. But yeah, this new character that they brought in, what's his name?
Eddie?
Eddie.
I love Eddie.
Eddie is just Billy's replacement, I guess. You know, Lee doesn't think so, but he's the long-haired rebel.
Okay.
You know, he's way too old for high school, yet he's still in high school.
Sure.
He's this rebel with long, I think he's great.
I think aesthetically, you could, I guess, say that, but it's a different type of character. Like, he's a metalhead where Billy was not. Billy was just like, he was like a jock.
I get that. I'm just saying he is
like
a
an airhead.
long-haired rebel.
Okay.
You can have different types of rebels.
I know, but everybody in the show, like I said earlier, everybody in the show's a rebel. In their own way.
In their own way.
Kind of, but not like,
It's just the long hair.
It's
Well,
not just the long hair.
There's other
He's
things
too
that Eddie.
old for high school.
There's other things that Eddie got going on that we'll get into later on that makes him more of a rebel than anybody else on the show. Come on.
And
True.
just like Billy was more of a rebel than everybody else on the show.
Yeah.
He was set apart. This character was there to replace Billy's character. That's it. Because if Billy was still around, he'd be doing it wouldn't be drugs, it'd be something else, but he would be the guy doing this stuff.
I think it's because I know where Eddie grows that I can't see that. Maybe I'm just clouded by that. I probably, if I was watching this with you alongside, as we're going through it, I might agree with you. But I think I really, really enjoyed Eddie's character throughout the season. So
I'm not saying that his character won't grow.
I know. I'm not saying that it won't either. I'm saying my personal opinion. I don't see that because I know his character, so I don't see it. But if we're looking at his aesthetics and just like base like first looks, sure.
I'm not going off of looks.
He's a new character that was introduced who's an older dude who has hair, and he's a rebel in his own way. I agree.
Can I ask you a question, Lee?
Yeah.
If you divorce yourself from the knowledge you have of the rest of the season, are you going to feel like you're lying? I'm just going to ask you straight up, because that's what it comes off as sometimes.
Maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
I
yeah. I don't want to, betray my own thoughts.
Okay.
You're not.
Okay.
Whatever. I'm just asking. Anything else you want to get into, Chuck? Okay, so you talked about Eddie. You talked about.
I don't know. Is my thought process, because there's knowledge of what's going on down the road, going to be shot down if I share an opinion?
I'm not going to do that.
Because this happened last week. I know you're not, but this happened last time too.
That's why I asked him the question. I
problem.
want to get it out there in the open. I want him to be knowledgeable of what he's kind of doing. That way he'll always be cognizant about it and maybe kind of pump the brakes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just setting it up.
Because what happened with Billy's character, we weren't expecting that either when we were introduced to Billy. And there was growth, and then what happened at the end when it came back to it, we didn't expect that either. So just because they're not identical doesn't mean that person wasn't there as the replacement for the person that we were introduced to a season and a half ago. And
true.
He is the older male character that was the rebel that was having more of the issues and causing all of this stuff. And there was intertwining going on between all of it. He wasn't part of the group, but yet he was part of the group on the outside. And all of this stuff is going on.
I think the problem that I have with what you're saying is Billy was more the villain.
Yeah.
Billy was never the villain.
Billy didn't want Billy abused Max. Billy didn't
Billy
want
was
Max
a villain
to have friends. Billy was a jerk to everybody that he came into contact with. Billy tried to push around and beat up Steve. Billy didn't like a whole lot of people. There was a reason for all of that.
And that was in season 2.
There was
not even in season 3.
Yeah,
right,
there was
but
a clear reason for all
this
of
guy
that.
but then you got this guy who is, he's he's 2 years. He's in his third season
year.
of his senior year. He's a drug dealer. He sells not just pot, but Special K. He's selling all the good stuff.
Sure.
What?
I said sure.
I mean, he's he's the rebel.
Yeah, but I forgive Eddie for a lot of that because you could say a lot of things about him and what he's doing. Fine. He's not a jerk. Billy was
No.
a jerk.
That's the only difference between him and Billy.
Right.
Is
I
Billy
think
was
that's
a
a pretty
jerk.
big difference. I think that's a pretty
But then-
big difference.
But then here's the thing though, is if that really was the case, which we'll get into it more, Max wouldn't care as much as she does in this episode. And it hit her hard to see what happened.
yeah.
And for someone who is a step brother, not even fully related, and they probably weren't together, they probably weren't step siblings for that long, because as we find out, everything kind of breaks apart.
Sure.
It really destroys her. So there was a connection there.
Sure.
So was Billy more of a jerk? Yes. Did Billy still have a soft spot, as we found out at the very last episode when, hey, it was dumb,
yeah.
Billy was saved because mommy loves him. It's really stupid, but it's just that this guy is probably going to have a different growth.
If you're,
But he is definitely the replacement of that character. It's like if Steve Harrington was gone, and like Dustin was it this episode where Dustin was like, "You're just Max. I have an older
Yes.
male."
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was this episode.
they're gonna try to replace that with certain people. This just happens to be that guy.
But I don't think we should talk about it anymore. Just because if you're looking at it in the first episode and just the first episode, yeah, obviously, demographic wise, he's getting screen time like another dude that had a slight resemblance because he's just an older dude with longer hair and there's an influence there. But the reality is his involvement is not the same as
I don't care if his involvement is the same or not.
it's his
I'm
level
not,
of involvement.
I'm not looking at it.
his
as-
screen time.
I don't care about that either.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at it and saying, I'm not looking at that. Billy had, this much screen time, therefore this guy has this much screen time.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at that at all. I'm looking at the idea of the long-haired, too old rebel
Yeah. I agree
that
with you.
Billy
Yeah.
is now this guy.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
That's it.
That's yeah, no, that's what I'm
That's
saying. That's
it.
what I can see.
That's it.
Aesthetically, sure. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
It's very surface. That's I agree with you.
Okay.
You're having a really hard time right now, aren't you?
No, I just
I
can't wait
think
to-
I think Lee should go to the bank and pull out a bunch of money and play poker with us. That's what I think should happen.
I don't play poker.
Exactly. I know why.
Mhm.
You have a horrible poker face.
I'm not trying to have a poker face. I'm not trying.
Continue, Chuck. Move on from Eddie. Because
So-
clearly this is
It's a soft spot for Lee, or a sore spot, I should say. Right now it feels discombobulated only because they're in two different places, and I know that on spring break in the next few episodes that they're all going to end up together. Even in season 2, when they weren't all together, you knew they were all still in the same proximity. They were all in Hawkins. Right now, they're not all in Hawkins.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey,
That feels weird. It feels like to do a season 4 when they're not all together. I think having them separate locations would have been a great series finale, not a season finale.
Sure.
Because now they're going their separate ways. The story's done. to try to now bring it all back together. They've been apart for so long. You got this impossible romance between Nancy and Jonathan still that at that age would never actually happen from long distance like that.
Yeah, and Johnson's hanging out with a long-haired rebel named Argyle.
Okay, okay. Jonathan, okay.
So to now it's going to feel forced to bring them back to Hawkins to make this happen. And I don't like that. I don't think with the way this show does things, it probably won't feel forced, but they have to force it to make it happen, because outside of that, you don't go back on when you're 16 years old and you move clear across the country. You don't go back to your girlfriend because you broke up a week after you moved out there. That's just the reality of how life is. It's not like, oh, it's been 8 months and ooh, I still love him. No. And that, I was thinking about this, we were talking about what our catch line should be. Our catch line should be, this happened because so-and-so loved them.
Yes.
That is our catch line.
You're not allowed to die because I love you.
Exactly.
You can't die because I love you.
Billy changed because mommy loved him.
Which is wild.
Which is wild. It is so wild to me. And, if Nancy realized what Jonathan was doing in this, she wouldn't be with him.
Probably not.
Probably not. Her type of character is not. No.
Yeah, she's the goody.
And what he's doing, right, and what he's doing, especially in the house.
Well, he's not really. I mean, come on now. Let's back that up a little bit. We've all been like, young adults, 18, 19 years old, smoking a whole bunch of pot. Like, I've been there. Chuck, you've been there. Yeah, I don't know that much
100%.
about I don't think that
but
should be a knock. I don't think that should be a knock against him.
It's not. It's not a knock against him. It's the fact that it's in his bedroom and it's like the cloud of smoke is permeating and Joyce has no idea, especially that she works from home.
Well, yeah.
That's the part. It's like, no.
Sure.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. There is one scene with 11 that happens and I'm like, I felt it.
You feel bad. You feel bad.
I felt so...
Yeah.
Well, 2 scenes. I felt really bad.
There's a lot that you feel bad for 11 about. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
But overall, I think that the end of this that happens with Chrissy, I was like, it was insane. It was amazing.
Yes.
It was insane.
Yes.
And to be Eddie in this moment, like, yep.
Yeah.
This whole the Duffer Brothers should recreate Nightmare on Elm Street in their own way, and they would do a good job.
I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that I thought that for a little while, especially after I've watched this season. I would be fully on board with the Duffer Brothers doing like, a trilogy in this style. Like,
yes.
And not just like the supernatural horror element, but add in, the comedic levity that Stranger Things has and like adapt that to Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that would be fantastic. Like, I can just imagine a Freddy Krueger type character in this show. I think that would be phenomenal.
Well, they introduced that character in this episode, but it's so much darker.
Yeah.
It's so much darker.
It goes the other way.
And you're like, yeah, it's Freddy character is the whole point of their Freddy character, personification is a spoof. It was supposed to be a spoof on his bully when he was in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was he was bullied by a kid named Freddy Krueger in high school.
What's that?
This is called a VHS cassette.
Oh
It
my
was like a
god.
paperweight.
Yeah.
It's a paperweight.
I don't even own one of those.
Oh, I own many of these.
I still have a bunch of them.
I just don't know what it is. It was in my VCR and I'm like, oh, what's
Your
up?
what?
Yeah. I've got a VCR.
Why is it
VCR.
called a VCR?
It's a video cassette recorder.
Yes,
Yeah, but they never
sir.
recorded.
Yes, they
Yes,
do.
they do.
Yeah.
The new ones did.
No, it was,
They
but it was called a
recorded back-
VCR.
Yes.
When they were called, when they were called VCRs. it's
Even
because they were video
Betamax
cassette
recorded back
recorders.
in the 70s.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you could record with some, but there were some that just had play, stop, pause, rewind,
Yeah,
and fast forward,
and
and
those
no
technically
record.
weren't called VCRs because they couldn't record.
So then, what were they called?
I don't know. I wasn't around.
Cassette player.
I'm not.
A cassette player was
Yes.
a tape cassette player that you hit.
No, there's an audio cassette player and
Audio
a
and
video
video.
cassette player.
Video, cassette
Video.
recorder, video. VCP.
VCP.
Yeah, look that up and see what. Tell me what you get.
I don't want to.
They
I'm
never
afraid
they
to.
never They never existed because it was called a VCR. Everyone
Vaginal
called it a
conception
VCR.
piece.
I have
What?
a feeling.
Vaginal conception.
Yeah, I have a feeling if I Google VCP, it's going to give me some venereal disease.
Probably. But overall,
VCP stand.
If the-
What?
Yeah, you're clipping.
Data
You're looking it
center?
up.
A certification designed to demonstrate technical compliancy. Oh, virtual machine stuff. Okay, that's VCP. So it's not a venereal disease. That's good to know.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Thank
that's
God.
fantastic. If the rest of this season is anything keeps the feel of this first episode, this season's going to be amazing.
This season is nuts.
This season is amazing. This is my favorite season. Season
yeah.
4 is my favorite.
That's why we're
season.
taking our time here.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, I will. The thing
Please.
is, I feel as though, jumping right in.
Yep.
I feel as though this season, I don't remember. Like, I remember the basic things. I remember like the end, the reveals, things like that. But as we talked about in previous seasons, there's a lot of stuff that even in this season don't get answered. So I really feel that they're gonna keep on, like, when we get to season 5, and I really hope they don't butcher it. Like, if we're finally gonna get the answers in the final season to all of the questions, or at least all of the big questions, I'm excited for that.
So, what questions in the first 3 seasons have not been answered?
I want
What
to
are we
answer
talking
that.
about?
I want to answer that
Yeah.
question, but I don't.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll talk about it when we're done with this season.
No.
I'm talking about in the first 3. We've already talked about what
Yeah.
big questions are still lingering.
Didn't we talk about this?
Aside from where does the upside down come from?
That's a big one.
Aside,
That's a big one.
Where
aside
does
from
the
that-
upside down come from? What is happening? Why were experiments going on in Hawkins' lab? What's the deal with the tattoos? How many other people are out there? Like some of those things get answered in this episode, but for the most part, everything is still
season,
kind of up in the air.
There's still a lot.
One of the reasons why I love this season is because it answers some of those questions in such a fascinating way. It
Yes.
does. It takes really good care at answering one question that's been lingering since the first season, and it does it amazingly. That I'm convinced. I am convinced that this season was written after somebody was hired. I'm convinced.
Well, is this the one season that Sean Levy's not a part of? Because I think he was like what directing. He was directing the first 3 seasons.
Was he?
that the Duffer Brothers did.
No, they were the writers.
Showrunners.
And
but
directors.
that's I'm
yeah,
sure
but
they have
but they were
directing
also writing with
credits,
Sean Levy. But Sean Levy is not involved in this one. I just don't know if he was involved in the other season as well. But I remember that he dropped off at one point. And that's when things kind of got to this heavy more horror. I mean, it even says right here, drama, fantasy, horror, because this season is getting horror.
Yeah.
And this episode did open up with, hey, there was a warning at the beginning of this episode about how graphic it was.
Oh, it did say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But continue.
No, that's all I was saying about that. But about me in this season.
This episode.
This is a great way to get us into it. I mean, if this show started like this, if the show itself started this way, I'd probably be like, I'm all set. But the problem is now, and it's just like a lot of things where I'm not going to call it desensitization, but we've invested now into the characters. Now
Mhm.
that we're invested and we want to know what's going on, this season is just it's absolutely nuts because it's giving us a lot of that like, oh, okay, we're getting into some heavier stuff here. Because the first season, yeah, some weird stuff was going on. That's creepy. Like, watch out for this. We got these demogorgons going around. Then you got demodogs. Then you've got, then you got this giant rat blob spider thing, whatever it is. And like, okay. And then here you've got this Freddy Krueger looking dude. He looked somewhere between Freddy Krueger and the Wishmaster, just kind of going around doing his thing. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, it's getting heavier, it's getting crazier, and then you see what
They're
happens
doing
at
with
the
this what you
Sean,
said they
and
did
and
with, like with Marvel when
sorry.
they started out sciencey
Right,
and they
exactly.
got more mystical.
They got more fantastical.
Sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt,
exactly.
but Sean Levy is still attached to Stranger Things. He directed an episode in this season. So
An episode. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. But he's not as involved as he once was. I think that was the thing that he kind of he's helping out a bit, but he's not as much of a
sure.
showrunner as he once was. Except in the beginning, he was very much involved. Um, yeah. Honestly, I like this episode. I like how they started it off. So many questions, but I mean, obviously, we'll get a lot more answers as the season goes on. How many episodes are in this season again?
9.
Is it 9?
Is it 9? I think it is 9.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So 9, and they're all like, I mean, this one was like an hour and 18 minutes long, this one episode.
They're all
So
lengthy.
I don't think
they're all
they're
lengthy.
all lengthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be. I'm glad that we're only doing one episode at a time now.
So am I.
And yeah, this will be good. So I don't really have much more to say about this episode without getting into spoiler territory, but yeah, I enjoy it. I
So
like where it's gonna go.
I love the setup. I love the way that everything
Yeah.
is set up in this one episode because it like
Mhm.
because now all you really have to do is like keep yanking on the thread and everything's kind of gonna unravel as the series goes on. Um, One spoilery thing that I will say before we actually get there is the decision to strip 11 of her powers. I think is actually kind of cool. It gives her a reason to do something else other than just like be the savior of the world and like be able to
Right.
use her powers to manipulate, the situations that she's in, putting her in this new setting in this high school where she's essentially getting bullied a little bit and she has no
Yep.
powers to defend herself and she has
A
to
little bit.
figure out how to be a person. She has to figure out how to deal with life as life, brings. I think that's really cool. I think that's really good to do for a character and I think she needs it. Anybody's gonna need that. I think that's great. The decision to split everybody up, I mean, they've done this every season. Every season, like, the group kind of gets split up into, like, this faction is over here doing this, and it splinters off, and these people are over here doing that, and everybody kind of comes together by the end. And so far, in all 3 seasons, they've done a really good job at bringing everybody together. I will say that they do a really good job here. It's not clunky. They don't butcher it. Do they have the potential to butcher it, going into season 5? Of course. And I can say that because we haven't seen anything yet. But so far, the way that they bring everybody back together again is always done in a really clever way.
Yeah.
I was talking about before, like, you still have a lot of mysteries and a lot of questions that remain unanswered. This is a season where a lot of things do get answered, so I'm excited to talk about a lot of that, moving forward. But so far, this episode, is it the best opener? I don't think so.
No.
I would say season 2 opener is probably my favorite. But this episode definitely, serves a really good purpose. What they're doing
Season
with
3 is mine.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hey, if it is, it is.
I'm just kidding. It's
Okay,
not.
fine. Good. Okay. It doesn't. It
Season 3's finale is my favorite finale so far.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really good. It's really good. I don't know. I don't know what else to say that the two of you haven't already said. I love this
Mhm.
I love this opener. I think it's fantastic. I think the introduction of the new villain is amazing. I think the cold open before you actually get into like current days, 1986 stuff. I think that's fantastic, and I want to talk
Yeah.
a lot about that because there's a lot that happens here. And
Yeah, it's a little nuts because it catches all of us by surprise when we see
Yeah,
that.
very
Because we're
much
like,
so.
wait, what? Like we've grown to love this character. Why would that happen?
very
Like,
much so.
Yeah.
The so on the nose of Nightmare on Elm Street is fantastic. It's fantastic. And I agree with Lee 100%. I hope that the Duffer Brothers get an opportunity to make a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I think it would be
Chuck's idea.
Oh, it was? I thought it was.
Yeah.
Well, fine.
No, I didn't say it.
Okay. Chuck's idea was give the Duffer Brothers a Nightmare on Elm Street film. I think that would be amazing. Just based off of this episode and this season alone, I think it would be fantastic. So there is that. Everything else that I want to say is kind of like character specific. So we'll get there, and I'm done rambling. Chuck, if you want to segue.
Do the honors.
Yes, please.
All right. So with that being said, if you want to watch the rest of this and enjoy all of our lovely mugs
and our wonderful shirts
and Lee's wonderful shirt, find us on patreon.com/blackandwhitereviews. Help support the podcast. It allows us to grow and do more things for all of you. You can also find us on all the socials. YouTube and Instagram is at Black and White Reviews 1866, and Facebook is at Black and White Reviews. And as always, all of our audio, it will be on any podcast platform aside from Google Podcasts starting April 2nd. Share this with your friends. Like us, follow us, tell all your friends about us, make us go viral. With that being said, let us slip right into spoiler territory. And I wanted to say this. If you Google it,